Hi, I'm Tim, and I'm back with another luxury watch unboxing. Longtime followers of the channel know how I am captivated by the Devon Tread watches. I might be a little bit like that guy at work who's always trying to get you into crypto or annuities. You may never get that guy any more than he gets you, and you may not get me when it comes to these, but I hope I can at least show you what I think is cool about them. So we're going to unbox this Devon Tread 2, starting with the outer packaging. First, you can see there's a metallized Devon logo on there. Outer boxes from any brand are usually pretty nondescript. This one's fairly large. You can see in total volume it's about the size of a shoebox, shorter end to end but a little bit taller and quite a bit heavier. Now when you open it up, the first thing you're going to see is that there is another box in the box. This box contains electrical hardware and the operator's manual. We're going to take a look at the second. We may as well go straight for the fun and pull out the main event. Now what we've got here is a little clamshell inner box, and this one's made of a higher grade of material than the outer box. And then you could see that it's a box in a box in a box. And we'll take out the display box. This one actually has a functional purpose, because if you look around the backside, you can see that there's a little opening for the electrical jack. So you actually charge the watch inside this box. This metal hardware, it's all matte finished. We have a little button externally that you push to open it all up, and then you see the Devon Tread 2. Now this is the Devon Tread 2 Murder. It is also known as the RedRum. Honestly, you know the inspiration, The Shining. The watch was one of the original Devon Tread 2 models that came out back in 2013. The successor to the original Tread, this was a more wearable watch. Now, this is a relative term. It's still very large, very brash, and some might find it borderline offensive if you are of a Vacheron horological persuasion. But this is a watch that wants to laugh along with you. It's not something to take totally in earnest. All right. Let's take a quick look at the watch and go through what makes this one special. Starting with the size, yes, it's big, but if you've ever seen a Tread 1, you know that watch is more of a gauntlet than a watch. This is truly a watch. It's got a tonneau case. You can see a combination of satination and polish. This is a DLC on top of stainless steel. We have red anodized bolts, and this is a black on red look, so it's not high contrast, but they work well together. The strap is a custom piece. The watch strap included 90 to 95% made in America. These are made out of California, and they have custom straps made for them. This one's brand new. Combination of black calfskin, red stitch. You can see that they are Devon custom straps, and I understand that there is actually a plastic insert within the end of the strap to allow it to mate perfectly to the case shape. You will note that this is proprietary and integrated, so if you want another strap, reach out to Devon. They have some stock straps available, but I've also seen them order up customs if you have something very specific in mind, including a Velcro closure. I've seen that done as well. Taking a quick look, you can see the pin buckle is a combination of satin and polish, also DLC steel. It's a custom piece that is specific to the model. The watch has a case back reminding you of its inspiration, and it's got a cool depth effect to it. Rolling around, you can see that this is very different from the Tread 1. First, there's only half as many belts too. Second, you have twice as many controls. You have a button as well as a lever. Now, this button is very similar to the original Tread 1, but it doesn't turn. The lever moves up and down, and it looks a little bit like something you'd find on a high-end custom knife or maybe a bayonet fixture for an assault rifle. Okay, the dial. You can see that it's a belt-driven watch. These are nylon fiberglass reinforced belts that are 1/500th of an inch thick, and if you want to know how it works, there is a thermocompensated quartz circuit in there that keeps a memory of the time even when the watch is off. So the thermocompensation is a high-end feature that you see on better quartz watches. It means it's not going to speed up or slow down a lot as temperature varies. Other interesting things, these motors are derived from medical pumps where components have to work pretty much full-time with a low probability of failure for obvious reasons, so they're durable. The actual rollers roll on ruby bearings for minimal maintenance requirements, and I've heard some of these going 10 years in between services, so that's nice to know. There are optical scanners in here to make sure that the numbers are correctly centered on their indices or in their windows. So if you wonder how do they line up so perfectly every time, it's because the watch actually knows where the belt is. And if you look, you can see the motors internally as well as some of the inner structure. It's a dial with a lot of depth to it. Now, because it does have two belts, half as many as the Tread 1, you realize that you're going to have to make some choices about how you read the time. The watch is a regular calculator, it's also jumping time. And as you can see here, it's a power reserve when it's off. So the little index that normally indicates the minute, it'll go from 10 to 0. That's 100 to 0. So I just charged this. So right now it is at 100%. You press the button once to turn it on. As you can see, it is a very animated and vocal thing. Now in standard mode, you're going to see hours and you're going to see minutes. You have to make a choice, because you can activate constant seconds, but you lose your minutes display. The watch always knows what seconds currently obtained, so if you set it back, it's going to indicate correctly. And with some effort, you can actually treat it like a hacking function and set it to the second against a reference time. Easy to set back. Now, the watch is also a chronograph. But you'll also note that since we have a seconds belt and a minutes belt, the minutes belt is a relatively short duration thing. So 12 minutes or less, that's what this chronograph will track. But I often find myself timing short intervals with chronographs, so it should be just fine. As you can see, a quick tap on the crown after putting it in chronograph mode, you press down and then up. This was a running change to the watch. And of course, if you hold it down, it resets the chronograph. Now I've got it back in time telling mode. Okay, on the wrist, how does it fit? Well, it's lighter than you would expect, but it is big. That said, it's not huge. The Tread one was huge. The watch is 15.4 millimeters thick, and from lug to lug, these are the easy dimensions. It's 55.8. It's big, it's brash. It's definitely not designed to fit underneath the cuff. If you are that Vacheron guy who loves an ultra-thin dress watch, this is definitely not for you. This is a Camaro SS. It's a Challenger Hellcat. It's a P51 Mustang on a low flyby. It's designed to sort of get in people's face, so you're either kind of with it or you're against it. And there's really no in between. But in terms of how it fits, it is comfortable. Now, across, from 3 o'clock, I guess you could say, to 9 o'clock, I measure 41.5 millimeters. Devon claims 44, and if you measure to the absolute edge of that bayonet-like lever, then it comes out to about 49. How do I think it wears? I think it wears like a 41.5, but I also think it's quite broad. So it's true to its size as a non-round watch, but 41.5 in a non-round case is more like 44, 45 in a round watch, so expect that kind of fit. All right, so that's the watch itself. We can turn it off and put it back in power reserve mode. There's also a setting mode where you can rapidly advance the belts at will if you want to show off to your friends. So a really cool little machine here. Now let's take a look at some of the accessories. So we have this inductive charger, and it is in the main box. You can remove it if you wish, but you put the Tread 2 right down on top of the charger and it begins charging. And if you want to know for a fact it's charging, just listen to it, put your ear up against it. You'll hear a very faint electrical whine. That's how you know it is in fact charging. Now, how often do you need to charge it? Well, I found that if you're running it in constant seconds mode, it'll last for about 7 to 10 days. If you turn off constant seconds mode, you can typically get 2 weeks. And if you just leave it in standby in power reserve mode like this, it should last 28 to 31 days, so basically a month. So those are your power reserves. But again, because you can charge it up and it never needs to go back to the factory to get a battery replaced in the conventional sense, you don't really have to think too much about it. Just remember to put it on its charger at night and you won't have to worry. There's nothing to be concerned about at that point. Now, this is where some of the accessories come into play. You would plug the charger into the base of the display box, and right here I've got some of those accessories. We'll open it from the other side. This is sort of like a tackle box full of a couple of felt pouches and then the manual. The pouches are fairly straightforward. Taking a look here, this is designed to be used internationally, even though it's made in California. So you have just about every international plug standard you could ever want. And then if you're wondering what you actually plug into the back of the display box, it is this conventional charger. It goes into the back of the box, so right in there, just like that. Now, the manual is fairly straightforward, and it's model specific. It's not for Devon Treads generally. You open it up, and there's a little card. that invites you to register your watch, but also there's a QR code for getting this manual online if you need to access it remotely. Inside, you can see that the watch was originally purchased in San Jose, the original dealer, and it was almost exactly 7 years ago. Now, the model came out in 2013. Last I checked, it was still in production. So this was sold in 16. The model came out in 13. You can still get it today, so that gives you an idea of the time frame surrounding this watch. The first thing you see is the image of the watch itself. So again, model specific. Scott Devon, the entrepreneur behind the brand, writes a little foreword, and he's a cool guy. I've interviewed him for my podcast series, so definitely check that out. He's into cars, he's into watches, he's actually built both for himself, original, from scratch, in his own right. And something you'll never see on a Swiss user's manual, a direct phone line, toll-free, so you can talk to the service center. The Swiss do not want you to do that. This is a big part of the fun of owning these. You call a guy, he answers the phone, you send your watch in like 1 to 2 weeks, it's back from service if it needs service. They recommend 2 to 5 years, but again, they've also told me that some watches from the original 2010 run are still out there and have needed no service. So they're not necessarily needy things. Taking a quick look, again, this is how the display works, but you already saw that. Fun fact, this Devon Tread has 2 feathers in its cap. First, it's the only water-resistant Devon Tread. So 10 meters, this is splash, this is rain exposure only, but the original Tread one was like a minute repeater, moisture and dust only. So this is actually quite a bit more resilient. Also, the Tread 2 has a sapphire crystal for better durability and scratch resistance. Because of the size of the Tread 1, it has plexiglass. So this watch is water-resistant within reason, and it has a sapphire crystal. A little note on how you operate it. Anything you really want to know about operating this watch is in the first few pages of the manual. I demonstrated some of this to you, but if you want to go over how it actually works, you can find all of this inside the manual, including how to charge it, chemical resistance, hopefully no exposure there, things like how to remove the charger from the box. I've never found that to be necessary. And right here it says Tread 2, battery should not need to be replaced for many years. That is indeed my experience. General care and maintenance, all important things to know. And then troubleshooting instructions, very straightforward. So this has been the box, papers, and accessories, along with wrist review of the Devon Tread 2 RedRum murder. Reach out to me, Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com, if you have questions about these or any other Devon watches. I am the Devon guy here at Watchbox, and yes, I'm proud of it. Time out, Tim out, and thanks for logging on.